time of the month where a lot, like I should say, a time of the year where a lot of food happens and a lot of people like to make nice goodies and this and that. So we decided to kind of theme our webinar and some of our other pieces that we are sending out to you guys as far as downloadables and resources as kind of like a foodie theme. So hopefully you guys enjoy that. But we will be talking today about the different uh, website structure, different things that you can do to have an effective website structure and the three essential elements of that. So while it's not really obvious as a comparison itself, website structure, page offerings, they can all kind of be compared to, like I mentioned, a multi-course dinner. So we're going to kind of go through this, hopefully make it a little bit of fun for you guys, and we're going to go ahead and start off with a starter course, main dish, side dishes, and of course the dessert. Now, of course, the starter course would be your homepage, and this is where your visitors get really that first impression on what it is to visit your business and how you represent yourself professionally. And of course, you don't want to give too much information there. It's really kind of what the other courses are for. You know, you want to give some info, but then you want to have the additional info be spread out across all the other pages. Now, I'll make sure to not have this be too much of a theme. You know, if I explain something and you don't quite understand it, feel free to let me know. But again, the main piece of it, the main initial start, again, the starter course is going to be when someone first initially gets to your website, they're going to want to see that homepage. A lot of people ask, okay, what do I need to have on that homepage? Well, of course, you need to have the content in general of overall what you're speaking on. Of course, you want to have, you know, if you're having specific services or different things like that that you want to touch base on because you want to be pulled up through Google. A lot of people don't quite understand the fact that when you do have search engine optimization on your website and when you are looking to rank on Google, that a lot of people tend to uh, really only kind of focus on the homepage. And that's kind of a no-no. That's one of those things where you have to understand, I mean, as a business yourself, you probably have multiple services. You probably have multiple things that you do, multiple offerings. And there's no possible way you can get all that down in just a homepage. It's actually something that as marketers or even as businesses in general, when they do PPC ads, you know, paid advertising through Google, there is limitations on the different character counts. It's kind of like Twitter. Twitter has, I think, it's like 140 character count, 120. I might be off. Apologize, but you know, it's one of those things where you have to kind of fit everything in to that word count, you know, and it gets a little difficult, but it's something that is effective in itself because of the fact that people don't want to sit there and read a whole long essay. There are people that do, but for the most part, majority of consumers out there don't want to read a very, very long, drawn-out type of essay, unless it's something that's pertaining to them, and of course, unless it's something that's really kind of engaging with them. Now, of course, you can say, well, my homepage is going to be very engaging, and of course it's going to be something that they want because they're on my website. Why else wouldn't it be? Well, think of it this way. If you offer multiple types of services, who's to say that they're going to want every single one of those services, right? Maybe they just need one type of service, okay? Well, the problem is when you have every single thing on the website, or sorry, on the homepage, on just the home, on the web, sorry, the very one page on the homepage there, instead of spreading it out on multiple pages, that causes a problem because then that ends up making them read more info than they actually need. They're reading about other things that don't really pertain to them just to get to the golden nuggets of info that they actually want. So that's why you want to kind of just give little nods about it. Hey, by the way, it's almost, think of it in the sense of kind of bullet points. Obviously, you don't want to just put bullet points, but just think of it in that sense. Very short snippets of it. And if they have more info, more, you know, inquiry onto other information on your website about that specific technique or service, you can have that link to that service-specific page. And so that's why we kind of get into what we call the main dish. And of course, the main dish, because of the fact that you actually can have your website pulled up by multiple pages. On a search engine results page, you can have multiple pages of your website pull up on there. And that's something you kind of want to think about. You want to think about maximizing your real estate on that search engine results page. So in order to effectively make your website overall, okay, effective in itself, you know, be pulled up via search engine results and things like that, think of it kind of like a house, okay? Let's say you want to have your house look very nice and clean, okay? Let's say it's a 4-bedroom house. Why would you want to just make one bedroom nice and pristine and clean and look like a model home, and then all the other 3 bedrooms in the living room and everything else just look really, really bad? It doesn't really make sense. So think of it the same way when it comes to your website, to your home, to your business, whatever it may be. cater to these other specific pages. Now, the reason it's the main dish is because that's where you're going to have the big meat and potatoes of each individual service. You want to make sure that you have all the information, and this is kind of where you can just go all the way to the wall with it, all the information you need about those specific services. Now, if it's a service in general that maybe kind of segments into itself, okay, then that's something where you might want to create additional subpages in that category. Okay, so if you have a specific service that you offer, and let's say there's 3 other additional services that could kind of branch off from that, then you have that separate service page. Then you can have additional pages that are kind of in sub-pages, you know, in your navigation after that, that link from it and link to it. So in general, you can have an overall kind of summary of that service. Then if you want to get a little more in depth, you can create different sections of that page and then have those pages just be little snippets that then link to those additional pages, which will still be considered your main dishes. So it's, again, putting it into edible chunks and putting it into bite-sized pieces that are large enough to obviously give the information, but also small enough to where they can consume it. And again, I think it sounds like I'm using a lot of these, a lot of this verbiage for eating. Hopefully you're not hungry after this webinar, but it's very true. You know, it's one of those things where people need to digest content, you know, the same way as obviously they would digest anything else. It needs to be in something where they're not consuming too much info to where there's just not enough substance. There's not enough relevancy to them, and it almost kind of ends up turning into kind of more technical jargon and more of just like an article, you know, for other doctors, let's just say, you know, where they do want to know all the ins and outs in every single nook and cranny. Whereas, you know, the consumer basically just needs to know, okay, this is what I have, or this is what I need from you. How do I take advantage of it? Okay, do I call here? Where's the appointment button? That kind of thing. So you want to give enough info about it to show that you're an authority, but at the same time, don't make it a very, very drawn out, lengthy thing. Now, it's something that you probably would want to have less than 1,000 words, just so you know. If it does end up going longer than that, then you probably want to put it into additional segments, or how can I put this into multiple parts, that kind of thing. But think that out. Think of how you want to put your main services on. And again, the home page is just kind of like a nod, a short cliff note version, basically saying, hey, this is who we are, this is our practice, this is what we offer. If you want more additional info on these specific things that we offer, click here, and then it'll take them to those pages specifically, okay? Next, of course, you're going to go ahead and we're going to talk a little bit about some side dishes, which is, again, the contact and about us pages. Now, the reason these are important, obviously, is because of the fact that they want to know who they're going to. And I've said this in multiple webinars. If you've been in other webinars of ours, it's one of those things where you need to understand that people and their health, their body, anything in general that has to do with their well-being, they're going to be sensitive to it. They're going to take it very seriously. So anyone that's going to basically be treating them, helping them, basically offering their services to them that involves that part of their temple, their body, basically, they're going to want to do the research. They're going to want to know who it is, who am I dealing with, who am I bringing my family members and my friends to, and so that's why the About Us page is very important, and then obviously the Contact Us page kind of follows after that. So the About Us, of course, you want to have who you are, your CV, all your credentials, things like that. Maybe if it's the staff members, if it's the office manager, whoever and ever it is, okay, you want to make sure that you have decent info in there about their qualifications, let's just say. What got them into the industry? What essentially made them want to have this be their career, okay? And then maybe towards the end of that little bio for each person, you can basically put something like, you know, what they do on the weekends. They like to, you know, hang out with their pets, their wife or their husband or their kids or whatever it may be. The hobbies that they like to do, you know, I like to go running or surfing, anything in general that kind of makes that person more human. And maybe something that that person can relate to the customer or the client, that maybe there can be a conversation that can be struck in the office. And those are the kind of things and those are the kind of relationships and rapport that are needed to help encourage reviews, help encourage other referrals from friends and family members, and essentially get people to become residual clients. That's one of the biggest issues that we see now, is that people go and they basically go one time, maybe twice, but they're not that residual client. They're not one of those people that can become lifelong clients, okay? And so that's something that you want to kind of think about, is making your practice more personable and a little more human. And I know that sounds kind of weird saying it's not human enough, but if you think about it outside the box, a lot of people tend to see very robotic behavior, very robotic environments. You know, you go to the cliche typical doctor's office, right? Your primary care physician, let's just say, you know, you go to the typical type of doctor office, and people always claim it's very cold and stuffy and just very, you know, obviously very sanitary and clean, which is great, but it's just kind of got that aura, you know, around it. And so the more and more you can actually make it personable and make it seem like, hey, you know, we're just like you know, we can be your new family as far as, you know, helping you guys out. We're all in this together, you know. People love that. People like feeling that they're being taken care of the same way that they would take care of their family members or whatnot. But you guys are just obviously more qualified, of course, for these particular instances. So keep that in mind when it comes to the About Us page. Now, as far as Contact Us, that's something that you want to make sure that you have everything that is needed in order to make sure they know where to go and who to contact. Of course, you're going to have your phone number, and you're going to have all your different calls to action everywhere across the website, whether it's in the header, the footer, if it's in the main image, the banner image, if it's in the sidebar, wherever it may be. You still want to have a Contact Us page, just because of the fact that, you know, obviously people are going to have questions. Now, I do recommend having kind of one of those Contact Us pages where they can actually, if there's like a text area, they can maybe type in, you know, a question, as opposed to just kind of giving you contact info and waiting for someone to call you back. If they can kind of give you a little snippet of the question that they have at hand, you might actually be able to just kind of email them back with the answer, and or, you know, find out that it's actually a lot larger of an issue that, you know, they need to come in immediately or whatever it may be. That's something that definitely you want to have available to clients and people that are using your website. On top of that, if you happen to be, which I find a lot of our clients are in, and a lot of other people in these industries are in, different plazas or different areas where it might not be, excuse me, might not be the easiest to find the business or find the office. If it's an optometrist, if it's a veterinarian, or if it's a chiropractor, for instance, I know a lot of times, especially here in San Diego, California, you know, a lot of times when you're on the main road and you see one of those big, you know, kind of like a plaza, big signs, and it says all the different business names, a lot of times it doesn't say the actual practice name. It might just say optometrist. It might just say chiropractor, dentist, you know, that kind of thing. And so, you know, they might be like, okay, this obviously is the place, but more likely than not, a lot of people just don't know unless you have, of course, a couple things. One, I do highly recommend putting some kind of picture of the front of your location somewhere on the website, whether it's the main banner as one of the images that slide across, if it's actually an image that's on the Contact Us page, somewhere so people can actually be like, oh, I know exactly where that's at. And then that'll be something where they can actually, you know, go through and be like, okay, this is how I get there. This is what I need to do. Another thing that I would probably highly recommend is if you put some type of instructions, if you're on maybe a highway, you know, or a freeway of some type, and it's one of those things where maybe they have to kind of take a left turn, or it looks like you have to take a left turn, but you have to make a U-turn kind of thing. Giving some kind of instruction how easy you might think your location is, that's going to help out a lot. And so understanding the fact that people might not be able to find or see. So think those pieces together as well. And of course, my favorite part, which is the dessert, which I'm sure is everyone else's, testimonials. Testimonials are just, like I said, because you live giving the testimonial, or if it's anything in between, you know, I definitely recommend having some type of testimonials, whether it's on your website, if it's a review on Yelp or Google, Angie's List, anything like that, Facebook, YouTube, wherever it may be. Okay, I do highly recommend having some form of testimonials. Now, how do you get testimonials? You got to ask. You know, if you aren't getting them, you got to ask, and you have to make sure that when you're asking, that you are asking the right people. Well, who are the right people? I always highly recommend that if anyone has been going to your practice for a while, or if someone has been coming into your location that maybe it was their first time, but it was clearly a great experience. You can see they do nothing but thank you about it. Oh my gosh, I've been dealing with this forever. Thank you so much. That's a perfect time, strike it when it's hot. That's a perfect time to definitely go and ask for the testimonial, okay? I actually got this a long time ago from a mentor, a very long time ago, basically when I used to work. This is way back when I worked at Cingular, if anyone remembers Cingular Wireless, okay? It was Pacific Bell Wireless, then Cingular Wireless, and then now AT&T. When I used to work at Cingular, the number one thing they used to say was, don't let McDonald's outsell you. And I never understood what that meant. And the biggest thing for me was the fact that, well, they said, there's no harm in asking. I'm like, yeah, but they're like, no, everyone does it. And they use McDonald's as an example because every time you would go to a McDonald's at that time, they would say, do you want to supersize it? Or do you want fries with that? Now, of course, that's part of their job, but that's kind of how you have to look at this. You have to look at it as it's kind of everyone's job. If you want to get these testimonials, they're not going to just flow in. If they do, that's great, but you need to be able to ask. And the worst thing you can get is no. I mean, really, or the worst thing you can get is, oh yeah, definitely I will next time, or there'll be some kind of form of no, but there's a lot of times where they will say yes, and they will go ahead and send you in one or email you one or leave a review or whatever it may be. You just need to ask. And so don't be scared to ask. You want to make sure that when you do ask, it's the right audience, and keep in mind that when you do ask, that it's, again, someone that had a great experience, not someone that obviously has been kind of wishy-washy and kind of down experience, and you're not really too sure. So make sure that you do that when you are looking for a testimonial on there. Now, another thing is, of course, you want to address the user experience. Now, this kind of goes back into what I was mentioning as far as making sure that you are looking not more so just for like your end of it, but you are also looking at who's using your website, who's actually going through, and basically how are they using it, how do they view it, what do they think of the practice, because again, the practice in itself isn't, or sorry, the website in itself is an extension of your practice. So you want to make sure, as nice as your practice looks, that your website looks just the same. So presentation is definitely key, and whether it's, again, formal dinner, small, charming potluck, you want to host, something that is presenting and making your guests feel invited, just the same way as your clients. So if they go into a practice and they look at it and they kind of think, oh, this really doesn't look, this looks kind of shady. I've been in a couple practices before where I'm just like, I don't know, like I get a vibe right out the gate. That's a problem, and you want to kind of address that. So just so you know, a little stat check here, 75% of users admit to making judgments about a company's credibility based on their website design. When I go and I research for companies, the first thing I do is I look at their website. Do they even have a website? Oh my gosh, if they don't have a website, I'm first off, I'm very baffled. It's 2016, it's gonna be 2017 now. I still see people using Yellow Pages, of course, it's still around, of course, but not having a website, that it just blows my mind, because it's okay. Maybe it's forgivable a little bit if you don't have social media. It might be forgivable if you don't have other pieces or assets, related to your online presence. But not having a website, it just blows my mind. So if you absolutely don't have a website, that's the number one biggest thing. I mean, that was probably 75% of this big chunk of this whole presentation, is you need to make sure that you have a website. And once you do have a website, make sure that it matches the theme and everything in general. So as you can kind of see from these images, we wanted to play on that. Obviously you got the practice in the first one. Let's just say the second one's kind of like the website, and even the look and feel of kind of how everyone is kind of matching the decor or whatnot. Obviously you guys don't have to have uniforms and have yourselves match everything in the theme of the website or the business, but in general, that's just kind of overall what we're getting at. What you want to do is you also want to make sure that you are demonstrating some kind of relationship between your web pages and what people are looking for. Now, people actually will have specific needs, let's just say, that your services provide or that they help out with, but you also have to kind of think about, okay, what are people actually looking for? Now, a lot of people tend to, I'm just going to use chiropractic as an example. A lot of people tend to make pages about specific services, massage therapy, acupuncture, whatever it may be. But maybe some people are actually searching for, low back pain or upper back pain, shoulder pain, something like that. Those are symptoms. Those are actually conditions. Those are symptoms people are feeling, And so if your website has no mention of any of that, then how is it going to correlate that to those specific techniques or service pages that you have, okay? So within those pages, make sure you have some kind of keyword, kind of catering to specific people's needs. People are going to be searching for these type of things, and if your website isn't relevant enough to that search, it's not going to be pulled up. So make sure that you have it at least be relevant to what you think people are looking for and what the people are searching for as well. So what do you do once you have all this? Okay, what do you do? How do you, again, ramp up conversions? And of course, conversions are getting people from the website into your practice. Well, if everyone, let's just say if your guests enjoyed your dinner, your presentation, it's more likely that they're not going to dash after the meal's over, and they're going to want to attend another one in the future. And it's the same thing with your services. Like I mentioned, you want to have those residual clients, those returning visitors. You want to have people that are satisfied with what they were provided with. So again, you need to make sure that your very first impression with new patients is the best one you can put forward. And of course, if it's someone that's been going to your practice over and over and over again, don't get lazy. Make sure that your service is still top tier, with them, because again, they're going to be your most valuable clients. They're going to be the ones who have been with you for a while. They're basically a case study for you as far as being able to refer new clients to you, their friends, their family, so on and so forth. So you want to make sure that you put your best foot forward and make everything 100% for not only new patients, but also those returning ones, because you want to have all your new patients become returning patients. And so what you want to do is, again, when you're looking at your overall website, the second note here, which is focus on conversion, not traffic, is very, very important. Now, again, you can have, and I use this kind of sometimes here and there, as far as like a nightclub, okay? Let's say you have a nightclub, okay? You're a nightclub owner, you're in Las Vegas, right? But you're not on the Strip, okay? But you're right at the entrance of Las Vegas. And so you got a lot of flashing lights, a lot of pizzazz going on, right? And a lot of people see you. That's great. A lot of people talking about me, a lot of people talking about my nightclub. We're going to have an awesome night, tonight. And the night happens and nobody shows up. Okay. Same thing happens in movies. You see all this hype happening, all this great marketing going on for it, or lack thereof, who knows. A lot of commercials are happening. It's on Super Bowl commercials, that kind of thing. And it totally tanks at the box office. What you want to make sure you do is not put so much effort into making it look extremely flashy and making your website look like, oh, we got all these great things, but then the service itself is not matching that hype. You want to make sure that whatever you are putting forth on the website, that it's focusing towards getting people in the office. You want to make sure that, of course, you have it look nice and great, but if it's not conversion friendly, and by that meaning there's no way for them to click on any kind of schedule an appointment button, there's no phone number for them to contact you, it's not very clear how to get to the office, all these notes that I mentioned earlier in this webinar, you need to make sure that people understand. You need to think outside the box, understand how people are perceiving you in your practice. Is there any kind of special offer that's going to make you different from other practices that are also pulling up on the search results pages for the same terms, or that maybe even be across the street? Do you have, obvious buttons to click on to schedule an appointment? Can they schedule an appointment? Are there phone numbers, certain places, specific places that people can actually reach out to you? Is there an easy way for people to see what reviews you have and what kind of testimonials you have? You want to make sure that this is all available. Don't be ashamed of anything. If you have things to hide, there's no point in hiding them. People are going to find them, and it's going to be obvious that you don't want people to see what they are. Maybe you have a lot of bad reviews. That's unfortunate, but there's ways to get around that. There's ways to get newer reviews that can push those bad reviews out, or even get some of the bad reviews flagged if they're not valid. There's a lot of ways around it, but you want to make sure that you make it as easy as possible for people to convert from your website into your practice. One thing you can do for that, of course, is this last point here, which is include video. Video is actually a really great way to consume content as opposed to read it, because again, a lot of people are on the go. A lot of people want to be able to see something within a couple minutes or 3 minutes or so, as opposed to sit there and read it. Maybe they just can't. Maybe they are walking down the street or in the car. Hopefully they're not in the car driving. Maybe they're in the passenger seat watching a video, and it's kind of hard reading, while in the car or walking or whatnot. But watching a video is a lot easier, and it's just a lot more content that they can consume. So if a picture is worth 1,000 words, video is probably worth a million words if you think of it that way. So make sure you have some kind of video, whether it's on your homepage, about your practice, maybe it's on individual specific pages, about those individual specific services that you can have, very short videos, 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, no longer than 5, definitely. I would say the sweet spot is probably going to be, 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes tops, maybe. If you can have it a little bit shorter, great, but it doesn't really need to be long. And the more videos, the better, because that just increases your video archive, and it helps to get those individual videos optimized on YouTube, which then can show up on the search results pages with your other pages. It creates this wildfire, and it's kind of, instead of hitting 2 birds with 1 stone, you're hitting a whole flock of birds with 1 stone a lot of times when you do some of these things. So keep that in mind, that it seems like a lot of work, and sometimes it is, but there are things that you can do where it will benefit your business. It'll benefit your website greatly just from doing some minor tweaks here and there. So keep that in mind. Make sure you are focusing on getting people into the office and not just looking at the pretty website and seeing how many visitors you have. That's a very key point. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and end it here. Hopefully your bellies are stuffed with a lot of information as far as all the stuff that we talked about. Again, if you have any kind of questions, feel free to go ahead and let us know. Go ahead and type it in the question box, and we can go ahead and answer those now. If you want to have someone go ahead and give you a call to kind of go a little more in depth on some things, feel free to go ahead and just let me know also in the question module box. No one can see your questions if anyone's afraid to type any questions, so feel free to go ahead and type them out. Again, give us a call, 1-800-IMATRIX or 462-8749. If you have questions about anything I talked about, anything in general, from just getting a basic website audit on your current efforts to kind of see how you guys are doing, we can do that, and it's absolutely free. We won't charge you at all just to take a look at your website, kind of give you some tips, tell you what you can do to kind of help you out. We have a lot of great resources and ebooks and infographics, that kind of thing. And of course, go to our YouTube channel. We have a lot of other videos like this. We have videos that are actually going to be coming down the line for 2017. We had something called Marketing in the Matrix, where we did a lot of tips and different videos like that from the people here at iMatrix, and we're going to kind of start that up again here shortly. So again, feel free to go ahead and type any questions, give us a call. If anyone else has anything else, let me know, and thanks again. We'll see you guys next time.